is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Kansas City.
Royals baseball from Baltimore, where the Royals are still looking for their first win on this road trip. Baltimore won Game 1 last night, 4-1. Royals baseball is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the ballpark with Rex Hudler. I'm Ryan Lefevre. Okay, here's the question for you.
You got it.
What kind of offense do the Royals have this year?
Hot and cold. That explains the Royals' offense for sure. They got a good offense, but man, are they streaky.
It has been a roller coaster all season, but in particular the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you know, that homestand was so special. It had everybody believing it was postseason again. The way they were hitting that ball, using the whole field, tearing up their opponents, 7 runs a game. We were thinking, is this going to last? No, obviously it's not. But no one expected it to go to the valley so quick from the peak of the mountaintop. Man, 1 run a game, that's not going to win you anything, and so far it hasn't. 0-5. Dale Swaim says he'd like to see some adjustments, but the adjustments he wants to see are laying out line drives all over that ballpark and get on base and score them runs. That's the kind of adjustment he's looking for.
On most nights, what Danny Duffy did against the Orioles would be good enough for a win, but the Royals' offense did not produce. And now the ball goes to Yordano Ventura, who had a very good start this year, maybe his best of the season against Baltimore.
That's a good thing. Plus, he's following Duffy. Similar stuff, except he's going to bring in more of his curveball. Last night, we saw Duffy use his changeup and fastball, but this kid has an electric fastball, great curves. If he can keep it down the birds, same key as for Duffy, keep it in the yard, I like their chances. They're going to get Ubaldo Jimenez.
He's our most trusted player, brought to you by Honda, and it wasn't just his start back in April. Yordano Ventura has done very well against the Orioles in his career with 5 starts and an ERA of 1.91. Ubaldo Jimenez will start for the Orioles. He has really struggled recently, in fact, over his last 7 starts. But Mike Wright was also struggling, and he held the Royals to just 1 unearned run in 7 innings. So we'll see what happens tonight. It's Game 2 between the Royals and the Orioles. Beautiful night in Baltimore. The lineups in the first pitch are coming up next. to you by the Missouri Lottery. Every ticket you play gives back to schools across Missouri, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. By Menards, save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by your Midwest Ford dealers. Visit your MidwestFordDealers.com. A little cooler tonight than it was last night. Very comfortable as the Royals try to even this series and get their first win on this road trip. And a good start would be to get the offense going. Royals have scored a total of 3 runs in the last 4 games. Kendrys Morales was not in the starting lineup last night. He's back in there as the designated hitter, but hitting 6th. And good to see Cheslor Cuthbert back in the lineup after getting hit by that wacky throw from Jonathan Scope. And the Royals are facing a struggling pitcher tonight in Ubaldo Jimenez, and they have some hitters who have done well against Jimenez in their career. That home run for Lorenzo Cain was a grand slam against Jimenez when he was pitching for the Cleveland Indians. And Eric Hosmer has also done well against Jimenez, and those are 2 guys the Royals really need to get going in this series.
Yeah, and I hope it works. Believe me, when you have success off a certain pitcher, you have confidence going in. But, you know, you just never know. Maybe Ubaldo Jimenez, hopefully, will be throwing cookies up there, but you never know. But by looking at those numbers, you would expect him to be hittable.
He had a good first half last year. 7-4. His ERA was under 3. But since the All-Star break, he has gone 7-12. with an ERA over 6, and his ERA this year is 6.59.
That's not getting the job done, but they don't have any other options at this point, and so they're staying with him. Talking with Buck Showalter before the game about him, he realizes that he's been giving up some hits in the middle of the plate. He says there's nothing much we can do except pull for him tonight. Hopefully he stays under the bats.
All right, Hud, your keys to the game brought to you by Golden Oak Lending.
Yes. How about starting stopper? That's Yordano Ventura. Can he go ahead and continue his dominance against the O's with a 1.91 ERA? That's 3rd lowest amongst all active starters with a minimum of 5 starts. Pilot to Bombardier. Throw a couple out of the yard. Not on a home run hitting team, but this is a ballpark that gives up a lot of homers. 2nd most home runs in baseball.
Escobar got jammed and rolls it out to Scope. And there is one away.
Baltimore Orioles defensively. They're not too bad. They're not one of the worst, but they're not one of the best either. So look who we have highlighted. Francisco Pena. How about him? Getting an opportunity with the Birds. And so far, so good. Remember his major league debut, he threw out a runner. And then in his start against the Orioles, he threw out a runner. So this kid's 2 for 2 in throwing runners out. So far in his career, we know he can do that.
Now strike to Whit Merrifield. Whit has reached safely in all of his 15 major league starts. Now no balls and 2 strikes. So if he reaches tonight, he will tie Johnny Damon for the Royals record. Johnny reached in his first 16 major league starts back in 1995. Can you believe that? 21 years ago.
Man, way to go. I like his chances tonight. Continue it.
Our Toyota League leaders. He has also hit safely in 14 of those 15 starts. Still 1-2.
Now facing Jimenez for the first time could be a little bit of deception involved with that for sure for Merrifield. Trying to figure him out. 6'5", 220. A lot of moving parts from this big man. Fastball, split finger, slider, curve, change. He's got all kinds of pitches, and he'll invent as he goes along.
There are all kinds of different pitching keys, but over the course of, I don't know, 5 years at a time or maybe 10 years at a time, there are certain keys that seem to be one that everyone repeats and focuses on, and the one we hear a lot now is repeating a pitcher's delivery. And he's got a lot going on, Jimenez does, to be able to repeat his delivery.
He sure does. A lot of moving parts.
Still 1-2.
You know, he's in his 9th season and doesn't have the fastball he once did. But he's going to go anywhere from 88 to 90. He's got to be patient, be selective, try to wait back and think right field and then react accordingly.
Two and two.
You know, and if Ned ever decides to scramble the lineup around, I mean, you could use Merrifield to lead off. He's got some, you know, he's got some good plate discipline. He's not up there just swinging. Could be an option for him. And believe me, if they keep in this little spell they're in now, Ned will start changing things around with the lineup here if it keeps going like this. I have a feeling.
Close. A little bit outside. 3-2. Home plate umpire is Manny Gonzalez.
10th pitch coming. Merrifield could see a fastball right down the middle here. His second batter of the game. It's ball 4, but that's all right. Merrifield was thinking aggressively.
And he knew it.
Merrifield or Merrifield? I learned that from Joel today.
Apparently it's Merrifield.
Yeah. But as Joel said, depends on where you are in the country and how you pronounce it or pronunciate.
That is the 6th foul ball of this at bat for Merrifield. He doubled in the first inning last night, and then Lorenzo Cain walked, and the Royals were threatening Mike Wright right away, but Wright got out of that, and the Royals wouldn't get 2 base runners in an inning again until the 7th. Up the middle, Manny Machado is there. So a long at bat. Witt is out, 2 down. Manny Machado is taken over at shortstop. J.J. Hardy is out with a broken foot. That happened about a month ago, and Machado goes back to his natural position.
Yeah, and you know how he broke his foot? Foul ball. I didn't realize that he fouled it off his foot, but Buck Showalter was telling me before the game that, you know, you see that almost once a game, twice a game, a hitter fouling a ball off his foot. Most of the time they walk it off, but sometimes the bone's broke.
Deep short. Machado, who has a strong arm, throws offline, and Cain is on with 2 down.
Good hustle by Lorenzo Cain. On contact, he knew that he had a chance to beat it out, although Machado, who throws a rocket from any angle, any arm angle, was a little bit up the line with it. But I like how Lorenzo Cain runs through the bag. He runs through that base and almost halfway to right field, continuing his path. Not stopping at the base, but continuing to move forward.
So it wasn't a hard hit, but Lorenzo adds to his impressive numbers against Jimenez, and now Eric Hosmer, who's done well against Jimenez, and he takes low. Eric was 1 for 4 last night. He is 7th in the American League with that .319 batting average. But when you put a right-hand pitcher on the mound, he hits .360. And he helped out Jimenez. That was off speed and out of the strike zone, 1-1.
Well, the adjustments that Hosmer's trying to make now aren't big. It's all about being patient. He's swinging at pitches that they're trying to get him to swing at, out of the zone. So his mechanics are great. They have been all season, very consistent, but it's a little anxious right now.
And I think that's a challenge for any young hitter because they want to hit.
Right.
I mean, it takes a disciplined hitter to go up there time after time, knowing that they're going to be pitched around and still keep his discipline. stay with his plan and not allow the pitcher to dictate what he's going to swing at.
You said it. It's hard. It's something you got to really discipline yourself and look for your spot. You look at an area, a certain area, depending on the pitcher and what his tendencies are.
Three balls, one strike. Salvador Perez is on deck.
Especially with all the off-speed pitches Jimenez throws. He's going to try to trick Royals batters tonight.
Pulled foul. Kane was running on the pitch.
That was a nice try.
Hosmer in the month of June, and this is only the 7th, so we don't want to get too carried away. But after a strong April, a strong May, still looking for his first extra base hit and his first RBI this month. And he'll take a walk. So 2 outs, an infield single and a walk. And up comes Salvador Perez. And talking with Ned Yost during batting practice today, the Royals notice Eric Hosmer is being pitched to a little differently in recent weeks than he was earlier in the season. I mean, the pattern is pretty much the same, but the amount of hittable pitches he gets are declining, and a lot of that has to do with the lack of production behind him in the batting order. So it's Salvador Perez tonight. Salvi hasn't been in this spot very often, but hitters behind Eric Hosmer this year are hitting a combined 200.
That's not good protection.
1 ball, 1 strike.
That swing right there has been Salvi's issue lately. He's trying to pull everything. Talking with Dale Swain before the game, he said Salvador Perez, when he waits and thinks opposite field and drives that ball that way, he's very dangerous. And instead he's pulling everything foul like we saw him last night. And so a couple of the hitters, including Escobar, are all in pull mode, and that's what they're going through right now.
Muscle up mode.
Right. And you know, they're in the ballpark that they know that you can hit homers in. So you don't have to pull homers here. You can go opposite field in this ballpark. Got to change their mental approach. And they've had situations like this early in games in the past several in the first inning, and they haven't come through. They're 0 for 7 in the first inning. Oh, man.
So for the 3rd straight game on this road trip, the Royals get 2 runners in the first inning, but the opposing pitcher once again pitches out of it. first inning. Adam Jones will lead off again. Batting at .238 overall, but about 50 points better since he's moved to the leadoff spot. He drove in a run with a double last night. The other three other runs were home runs from their number 3, number 4, and number 6 hitters. And now Yordano Ventura, who's had great success against the Orioles both here and at Kauffman Stadium, will be making his 12th start of the year. And his second start of this road trip. His first start on Thursday at Cleveland was a good one in a no decision. Jones swings at the first pitch. Barehanded Escobar. Long throw and no chance to get Jones.
Adam Jones doing his best Escobar imitation, swinging at the first pitch is a jam shot, and I don't think it broke his bat even. He's in on his hands. Escobar thought he could catch it in the air, but almost made a miraculous play. Good try. That ball's 5 inches inside, up on his hands. This tells me he was looking dead red first pitch all the way. And he was fortunate.
And now Hyun-Soo Kim. He takes a strike. He was really struggling when the Orioles were in Kansas City in April, but he's really picked it up. 377. Recently hit his first big league home run. And excuse me, base hit into left field. Fuentes was playing that way, so Jones stops at second base. And a couple of lucky hits, and the Orioles have 2 on with nobody out.
You said it. I used the word fortunate, but that right there is a nice piece of hit. Now he had to obviously know that that was coming because he wasn't looking fastball, and he's able to slip it right by Cuthbert there. So 3 pitches, 2 hits already. And this young man's made some adjustments, and his next time he comes up, we'll talk about it.
Manny Machado hit one of the 3 home runs for the Orioles last night, along with Mark Trumbo and Matt Wieters. Machado hit the home run against Kelvin Herrera in the 8th inning, but in his first 3 at-bats last night, Danny Duffy struck him out each time. Takes a fastball at 98 for ball 1. Right by him. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And that's what Yordano wants to concentrate on. Just play your game. You don't get rattled because they got a couple of runners on you early here. You've got the weapons. They can't hit till you throw it. He's got to tell himself, I'm in command. Like to see some of that attitude from him tonight.
2-1. No swing. C.B. Buckner is the first base umpire. Now Ventura is behind 3-1. On the ground, past Cuthbert. And 3 batters into the game, the Orioles have a 1-0 lead. And now Cuthbert vacated third base. Fuentes threw to third. Cuthbert wasn't on the bag, not expecting a throw. So Kim goes to third. Machado, seeing the throw going to third, goes to second.
That ball needs to be thrown to the second base bag. You want to keep the double play in order. Let him have third base in this situation here. Okay, but Fuentes, he comes up with it, not even looking at second base, and there's nobody there because, you know, your throw should go in there to second base to keep the double play in order. But sometimes young players get excited and they get duped by the go-ahead runner, the leading runner. Fuentes comes up with that ball and throws him to second base. Machado Probably makes a big turn, but he goes back to first.
Nothing Orioles. Nobody out.
Well, this was a hanger. I mean, that is like saying hit me all over it, especially for a big guy like that. It's a nice, easy, level swing. Trumbo's been hot. When you give a pitcher like that, a ball like that, I mean, a hitter like that, a cookie, he's not going to miss it.
And easy swings.
Very easy.
He pointed that out last night.
Yep. Just using his hands, and he's so big and strong as it is, and his hands are like vice grips.
Kane to the track. Trumbo tags. So Davis is out. It's a productive out to get Trumbo to third. Well, the Orioles, I'm sure, watched a lot of Ventura's video from Thursday at Cleveland, where he threw more fastballs in that start than any other start this year, because they've been ready for the fastball early in the count.
They have been. Jones got the fastball. Now Kim hit a breaking ball or changeup. I'm not sure what that was down the left field line. And Trumbo's was a big hanging curve.
Jonathan Scope drives in Trumbo. And before many fans can even get through the parking lot, the Orioles lead 4-0.
Yeah, this isn't pretty. And it's that first inning where they're ambushing him here before he gets settled in. He's going to have to find a way, and I'm sure Dave Island's saying, hey, look, let's forget everything that's gone on now, and let's just start over here against Alvarez. Let's start over, and let's roll a double play and get it out. Get out of this inning.
Ventura has thrown 12 pitches to 6 batters.
It's amazing.
And now Alvarez. Deep left center field. Kane makes a spectacular catch.
Oh, man, he caught it. That was a liner. I mean, that ball was just raked out there. What a catch. The fans in Camden Yards are all standing for that. That was one of the most beautiful plays we've seen from Lorenzo Kane. Look at him. He goes right to the spot where that's going over the wall. Oh, special. Took one look down, athletically jumped the wall, and brought back 2 runs for Giordano. Maybe that will turn the game around for the Royals. You would hope. What a big pick-me-up.
And now Francisco Pena. I was thinking the same thing. I mean, that ball goes over the fence. It's 6-0 in the first inning. Any team can overcome that in this ballpark, and yet 6-0 is still 6-0. No balls and 2 strikes against Pena. So we'll see. Is that a play that we're going to be looking back on in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning?
Hopefully, yes. But that's the kind of play that can lift the entire ball club and wake them up.
And now Pena strikes out on 3 pitches. A 15-pitch inning where Ventura faces 8 batters. A 4-run inning that could have been a 6-run inning if not for this play by Lorenzo Kane. A 4-run bottom of the first inning. The Royals got 2 runners with 2 outs against Ubaldo Jimenez, who struck out Salvador Perez to get out of the first, and now it's Morales, Orlando, and Cuthbert. Morales was out of the lineup last night. Salvador Perez was the designated hitter. Oh, 2. Morales doesn't like it. And oftentimes that's the way it's going when you're hitting 191. You step into the box and the count is 0-2. That pitch stayed up, and Morales drives it off the wall in right field. It bounces away from Trumbo and allows Morales to go into second base with a leadoff double.
There's a favorable kick. And 0-2. I'm sure Jimenez didn't want to leave it up there, and Morales, he almost took it out of the yard. That's a hanging breaker. 0-2. Get ready for some more of those Royals hitters, because it's got a 6 ERA and plenty of time in this game. But Morales got a little luck there. The way he's going, that kicks off the wall and holds him to a single.
Paulo Orlando had a 2-hit game last night, and he scored the Royals run. He takes low from Jimenez. You know, we've been saying that Jimenez has an ERA over 6, which is accurate. But in his previous 7 starts, his ERA is about 8.5. And that's the highest in the major leagues over that stretch. He has gone 5 consecutive starts, allowing at least 5 runs.
There you go. That catch by Lorenzo Cain might have been the one.
Davis. Ball kicks away from him. The Royals have runners at the corners with nobody out. So first and third, Chesler Cuthbert comes up, and let's welcome in Joe Goldberg.
Well, we weren't sure if we would see Chesler or not after that crazy play last night where he got hit on that double play attempt by Jonathan Scope. I think everybody, including Ned Yost, said they'd never seen anything like this. It went off of his elbow, and he left the game. Said he had no feeling at all, but that feeling started to come back when he was in the dugout or in the clubhouse last night and felt better, woke up, felt good enough. And he said to me today, I'm ready to go. Let's get a win tonight. His buddies, Brett Eibner and Whit Merrifield, teasing him because he said he got hit in the crazy bone, not the funny bone.
Well, maybe that's what they call it in Nicaragua, right?
That's right.
There's more than one way to describe that area of the elbow. That
That's
well,
right.
you don't have to hit it very hard, and man, the arm just goes numb.
Different terms for it, same feeling. Universal.
No balls, 2 strikes. Chesler had singled in that 7th inning before the play at second base and was 1 for 3. Another breaking ball that stayed up on 0-2, and Orlando was running on that pitch.
Cuthbert, man, he might get another one of those before the night's over. You can't miss those. That's an easy shot to left field if you can not overswing. Just react. Dale Swaim talked a lot about guys not reacting, looking in certain spots. Paulo, he'll walk into second base there.
And the Orioles didn't seem to have any trouble with that.
It's because Ubaldo Jimenez takes so long to get the ball home. Poor Pena, there's no chance he's got to throw anybody out. He can run all day on him. I talked about last night, that's why they don't start Wieters with Jimenez, because they don't want him to throw all the time. You know, coming off that Tommy John surgery.
Francisco Pena was called up when Caleb Joseph was placed on the disabled list with a I'll let you look it up. Yeah, let's let them look it up. Check swing, and Cuthbert went around.
Let's just say he had a groin injury.
Severe groin injury.
He's got a few more weeks. Well,
borderline.
Yeah, but Cuthbert, you know, he had plenty of pitches to hit in that at bat. He wanted to come through there. But it's only one out. There's an opportunity to get on the board here.
Raymond Fuentes has had a good road trip. He had 5 hits in the Cleveland series. And a bloop is caught by Machado. 2 down.
Just didn't have enough to get it over Machado. So 2 more inches. That was an off-speed pitch. He hit it off the end of the bat. That's a good job by Paulo to hold tight, because look, they got to do something to get these runs, 1 run home anyway. Esky, a .245 hitter with runners in scoring position.
He swung at the first pitch of the game and grounded out to Scope at second base. And Esky's due to break out on this trip. He is 2 out of 21. He has not scored a run yet on the trip. Broken bat. Short hop to third. And the Royals put Jimenez on the hook, and then they remove him from the hook. Second and third and nobody out. And the Royals are scoreless. Four runs in the bottom of the first inning. He faced 8 batters and threw 15 pitches. So that describes how much the Orioles attacked him. Make that 16 pitches, all of them swinging very early in the count, and it didn't matter what he threw up there, whether it was a first pitch fastball, first pitch breaking ball, first pitch changeup. They were swinging.
Yeah, and you know, with Ventura's fastball, it's okay to knock him off the plate inside with a heater. Don't let him get too comfortable up there. You know, the game's gotten a lot softer over the years. There's no doubt about it. But still, you got to be able to pitch inside, especially when they're teeing off on you like that. There's nothing wrong with coming up and in.
Ryan Flaherty came on as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning last night and struck out. Struck out against Luke Hochevar. Jim Reynolds says no swing. 2-2. The first 4 Orioles reached. Jones, broken bat single. Kim, check swing single. And then Machado, RBI single. Trumbo, 2-run double. Scope drove in a run with a single. And it could have been a 6-run inning if not for the great catch by Lorenzo Cain against Pedro Alvarez, who lost a 2-run home run into Lorenzo Cain's glove. 5-0 Orioles. Ryan Flaherty hits it out onto Utah Street. That was Ryan Flaherty's first home run of the year, and he hit it out of the stadium.
Fastball right down the middle. Short, compact swing. Caught it just right. And that's kind of like his batting practice today. I was watching him hit batting practice, and I looked at him and I said, man, forget about bunts, because he's got a couple of bunt hits this year, and I didn't notice that, and I gave him a hard time. I go, man, I wouldn't bunt either. He goes, that's 5 o'clock hitting. That's 7 o'clock hitting.
So who else do the Royals have to worry about tonight after a Rex Hudler pep talk?
No. I just was around the cage, and I've met the guy over the years. And 2 years ago when he broke in, I said, hey, do you bunt, kid? You know, you get a few hits a year like that. And then that's why every year I've seen him, I always ask him, how many bunts do you have? And he said 2. And then I watched him take those swings.
Yordano Ventura right now is a Lorenzo Cain catch away from being down 7-0 in the second inning. Orlando takes charge and makes a play on Adam Jones, 1 down.
The 4 defense for the Kansas City Royals. We have highlights tonight. Chester Cuthbert, 26 starts. At third, that's the most among rookies. And as long as he stays healthy, looks like he's going to get that opportunity to play every day. Defensively does a nice job. Glad he's okay. Getting hit in the elbow last night.
You were talking about Kim's adjustments before he singled in the first inning.
You know how a lot of Japanese and Korean players really flamingo leg kick and load up. They load up with their hips, but you can see he's not doing that anymore. And he's doing a little Ichiro right now.
First thing I thought of was both of his base hits tonight look like Ichiro Suzuki.
So you know you're going to have to make some adjustments, especially going from that Korean league to this one. You see he's not lifting up his leg at all. He's just trusting his hands. And that's 2 hits now. They were all off-speed hits. Off-speed. I'm not going to give him any more of those. Let's see if he can catch up to the heater next time. But this is a young man who's made the adjustments, and now he's raking.
So that's 7 hits for the Orioles in an inning and a third. And now Manny Machado takes a fastball inside. Machado, they changed the scoring. He now has a double. First scored a single, and then he went to second on the throw to third. So an RBI double for Machado in the first inning. And then he scored on the Trumbo double.
That's what you do when a team's hit and they're raking. Back them off the plate. Nothing wrong with that.
Fuentes started back, and now the wind blows it back toward the infield. The crowd reacted. And now Machado has some words for Ventura, who didn't hit him, by the way. It's Ventura's job to just throw it right down the middle to Manny Machado, apparently. And home plate umpire Manny Gonzalez may have said something to Ventura.
For what? I mean, he just threw him in. He pitched.
Maybe not.
Yeah, a couple pitches inside.
Well, so far, catching a lot of the plate has not worked for Ventura, so he's going to have to make an adjustment and not worry about whether Manny Machado likes it or not.
No, exactly. Stay on your game.
Mark Trumbo hit a 2-run double in the first inning.
So Trumbo's going, where did this wind come from? Unfortunate for me. I got to stand in there with a guy throwing 98 and dirt blowing in my eyes. So that little swirl. And Fuentes, he went all the way back to the warning track and come sprinting in to catch that. Wind hit the park here and really made a difference in that ball.
Three and one. Trumbo's home run in the 7th inning last night was his major league leading 19th. Ventura throws over to Hosmer, submarine style, to put an end to the bottom of the 2nd inning. Ryan Flaherty homers to right, and the Orioles have a 5-0 lead at the end of 2. Leading off the bottom of the 2nd inning, his first of the year, and Baltimore leads 5-0. With Merrifield slicing away from Jones, and he dropped it.
Good. That's got to be a hit.
Think so?
I'm begging.
And it is a base hit.
There you go.
So there you go. Witt ties the Royals record, reaching base in his first 16 major league starts, tying Johnny Damon from 1995.
Yeah. Congratulations. Way to go, bud. Keep it going. Keep the pressure on. That's all you can do.
And the Royals have applied some pressure to Ubaldo Jimenez. They had 2 base runners in the first inning. They had runners at second and third and nobody out in the second inning. But Jimenez got out of that second inning with a strikeout, a pop-up, and a ground out.
Merrifield is 3 for 3 in bags.
And there he goes. Pena's throw is a little late. Schoop didn't really seem to react, but Machado, the shortstop who was backing up the play, pointed to the Orioles dugout thinking that Merrifield was out.
Throw was a little bit high, but a nice tag by Schoop. He brought it down right away, and ooh, it's close.
And Buck Showalter is going to ask for a challenge.
Francisco Pena, if they get this call overturned, will be 3 for 3 in throwing runners out in his career so far. His dad would be proud. He already is. Tony Pena. So there's a lot on the throw. That's why he was able to get that tag down there on him. I'm not going to say anything, because looks like don't work anymore. Was it conclusive enough?
That last angle there appeared that movement was created by Schoop's glove.
Okay.
After contacting Witt's arm before he got to the bag. And the umpire in New York agrees. So Witt is caught stealing, and there's one down in the third inning.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You got to give some credit.
Contact there at least, right?
Yep. He's got him by an inch. So Francisco Pena, you can credit him for unloading a great strong throw, and then Schoop for the tag.
And now Pena on a little pop-up. And the Royals, they're just not making Jimenez work. That was a first pitch breaking ball down and out of the strike zone.
You're going to fall into his trap if you're going to be aggressive. He's got, I mentioned, 5 or 6 pitches that he's going to execute. He wants you to swing at those pitches out of the zone.
And what can happen is when you have a struggling pitcher, they usually have 2 things not working: their stuff and their confidence. And if you can get a struggling pitcher early, now they're battling their confidence again. And Mike Wright worked around a couple of tough spots in the early innings last night, and you could tell his confidence was building. Ubaldo Jimenez hasn't had an easy inning yet. He may face only 3 in this inning, but the Royals have already had 5 base runners. But you figure the deeper he pitches into the game without allowing runs, he's going to start pitching with confidence.
Totally agree with you. But you know, that's his 33rd walk now. So you got a guy who's got given up 33 walks. You can't go up there flailing and bailing.
Salvador Perez to the plate with 2 down. Here's our greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. And if the voting concluded today, Salvador Perez, who has the most votes of any position player in the American League, Salvi, Eric Hosmer, and Lorenzo Cain would be starters. Curveball for a strike.
Big poppy by a landslide.
Easy play for Jones in center field. So the inning began with Jones dropping a ball in center. It ends with him catching a fly ball. So the Royals have had 6 runners in 3 innings against Jimenez, and they are scoreless.
Keep the line moving. That's right, what we like. Score them runs.
All right, Royals fans, you can mark your calendars for the second T-shirt Tuesday coming up next Tuesday. The first 10,000 fans through the gate will receive a Keep the Line Moving T-shirt presented by the Kansas City Steak Company. Arrive early and get your T-shirt and cheer on the Royals as they host the Cleveland Indians. For tickets, visit royals.com/T-shirt Tuesday.
Chris Davis jumps on the first pitch, and the Orioles have done a lot of that tonight. 37 pitches for Ventura in 2 innings and 1 batter. Davis flied to center field in the first inning.
He's going to have to command his fastball if he wants to stay in this game. Can't just throw it down the middle. They're looking for it. They're hunting his heater. And it seems to me like Kim, the number 2 hitter, he's hunting his off-speed pitches.
Orioles got 4 in the first inning. They scored 3 runs after the first 4 batters. Merrifield from shallow right field takes care of Chris Davis. And up comes Jonathan Schoop. He drove in the 4th run in the Orioles' first inning. Another Orioles swinging at a first pitch fastball.
Yep, they're being aggressive tonight. I talked to Schoop before the game about that throw last night. First thing he said was, I felt terrible. Yeah, I didn't mean to throw the ball. Just like we talked about. You know, you can tell he knew he couldn't throw Dyson out, so he already had his arm motion going. And he said, when I tried to stop it, I spiked it, just like you called it. He said he felt terrible.
1-2. And they talked during batting practice today, Scope and Cuthbert.
So he's oh, there's no chance, and just one of those freak deals. Unfortunately, Cuthbert's back in there tonight. Good pitch.
Second strikeout for Yordano Ventura. 2 down in the 3rd inning. And now Pedro Alvarez. He lost a home run in the 1st inning.
You know what made that so spectacular was that it wasn't a high fly ball where he had time to judge it. That ball was hit on the line, and Kane took a direct route to it and came away with one of his best catches ever.
So that brings up an interesting question. Was that his best catch ever? We immediately thought of a catch that he made at Target Field a few seasons ago, which was a much longer run than the one that he had tonight, but similar in that he didn't have a chance to get to the warning track and set himself. It was a running, leaping play. A Lee Summit Mazda game break, August 1st of 2013.
Yeah, that looked a lot more difficult there. Throw the sun in there. They had a little sun, a little late sun he had to deal with. There was, I can't remember exactly who hit it, but how many runners were on, but I know it was a huge catch for the team.
Remember, James Shields was the pitcher, and I think it was Trevor Plouffe hitting from Minnesota. And that's correct. Ventura gets the Orioles in order with a couple of strikeouts. Baltimore has a 5-0 lead at the end of 3 innings. Second time tonight. Back in the 2nd inning, he was down 0-2 and doubled off the wall in right field.
Now he's supposed to pull that one. Now that's an off-speed pitch, and that's what it's designed for, and he's good at that, recognizing it. But Dale Swain would like him to at least think opposite field and then react to those. And
our Kubota power stats. Sorry, HUD. This is where the Royals rank in the American League in the category of designated hitter. We'll go back to that again. And we're not pinning this on Kendrys Morales because we're going to show you a second set of numbers here, but 12th or lower in the important offensive statistics. Now the other side of that is, and this was mostly Kendrys Morales, the Royals were 3rd or better in those same categories when the season came to an end, as Morales had one of the best years of his big league career. He was the Silver Slugger at the DH spot Hey, two teams can play that way. Morales says, how about that? Hyun-Soo Kim, and it's Kim who picks it up in left field.
There you go. Yeah, Rusty Kuntz patting him on the back saying, way to use that line. Now that's on an off-speed pitch going away from him. He already committed, and he just feathers it out there. Nice booty knock. That'll work.
So his 2 hits tonight have been on an 0-2 pitch and a 1-2 pitch. And it brings up Paulo Orlando. He reached on an error by the first baseman Davis in the 2nd inning. And now base hit taken away by Jimenez. Kick. Well, it'll be an infield base hit, but Jimenez almost deflected that perfectly to Manny Machado. That thing was destined for center field. That was a shot up the middle by Orlando, but off the heel. And Machado may have been better served to go to second base.
Yeah, he might have had a force there. He did, as a matter of fact.
So the Royals have now had 8 base runners in the first 4 innings against Ubaldo Jimenez. And now Cheslor Cuthbert. Cheslor was a big out for Jimenez in the 2nd inning. The Royals had runners at 2nd and 3rd and nobody out, and Jimenez struck out Cuthbert on a check swing. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Time for a big hit.
And a base hit into center field. Morales will be held at 3rd, and the Royals have the bases loaded and nobody out.
That wasn't the big hit I was thinking, but that'll work. And keep the line moving.
Jimenez also may have taken advantage of a couple of younger, inexperienced hitters back in that 2nd inning, with Cuthbert and Fuentes making the big outs, and asking hitters and hitting coaches over the years, you know, what's the difference between a guy who thrives with runners in scoring position and ones who don't? And to sum it up, it comes down to hitters that think the pressure's on them or hitters that think the pressure's on the pitcher. So in a situation like this, is Ray Fuentes thinking to himself, oh man, I got to get a hit right here. I got to get a hit. Or is he thinking, hey, this guy's got to throw me a good pitch?
Right. 34 walks. And be patient.
And he is. 2 balls and no strikes.
Young guys like to swing, especially in situations like this. But that base hit snapped an 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position by the Royals.
Two balls and 1 strike. Fuentes, with runners at 2nd and 3rd and 1 out in the 2nd inning, swung at the first pitch, hit it off the end of the bat, and Machado made a running play in shallow center field. 2-2.
Might have been his best fastball of the night. Put it right on the outside part of the plate.
Full count.
Now you don't want to come out of your shoes here. It's got to be out over the middle of the plate. Just try to get that base hit.
Pressure still on Jimenez.
Right, so he could walk you. Runs the same. There you go.
Good plate appearance. That's a great adjustment right there, Hud. You got a young hitter in Fuentes who maybe was over anxious in his first at bat, swinging at the first pitch, didn't hit the ball hard, and then in his next plate appearance works a bases loaded walk to get the Royals' first run home. Dave Wallace, the Orioles pitching coach, is out to talk to Jimenez, and now the tying run comes to the plate, and Alcides Escobar.
And you know, many times when a guy gets a big lead like that, you know, really 4 runs is not a big lead, but sometimes it's a hard time holding it, and his track record will tell you that.
Now Escobar needs to have the same type of at bat.
I agree.
Esky is grounded out to second and grounded out to third. And they are warming up in the Orioles bullpen. Two balls, no strikes. So, you know, one could say, well, the Royals, they've just scored their first run and it's the 4th inning. And yet Jimenez allowed 2 runners in the first, 2 runners in the second, 2 runners in the third, and now 4 here in the 4th. So it has not been an easy night for him at all. Escobar just foul outside of third. That was Vance Worley loosening up in the Orioles bullpen.
Too bad. That would have worked.
Broken bat, caught by Davis. Bases loaded, 1 down. Vote for the Royals Player of the Month in one of the 7 Rally House locations in the KC metro area. All participants will be entered to win a majestic prize pack. I don't want to say this is the game right here, but this is huge.
It is.
Breaking ball is outside.
I would go out and say, right man, the right spot, to at least get a run home. Merrifield's had quality at bats in his whole career so far.
1 for 2 with a single so far. 2 balls and no strikes. And now you can hear the mumbling and grumbling from the Orioles fans here tonight. They've been frustrated with Jimenez all year. 2-1.
That's the one he wanted.
Deep to left field, but out in front. Not far from his first big league home run, which would have tied the game.
Like you said, right man, right spot. Yep. Let's hope he can come through.
Still 2-2. Morales singled. Orlando singled off of Jimenez's foot. Cuthbert singled. Fuentes walked with the bases loaded to get the first run home. And after an Escobar line out, Merrifield, another fastball fouled away, still 2-2.
And if he doesn't get a hit here or have a productive at bat, he'll be bummed he's missed 3 good pitches. Those are all good hittable pitches, just not getting the kind of wood on it he wants.
Witt has fouled off 4 straight pitches. Fouled off 6 in an earlier at bat. Strike 3 call. That might have been his best pitch of the night.
Yeah, and anything close, you got to be hacking. Great pitch, good spot, but locked him up.
So now it's Kane with the bases loaded and 2 down. Lorenzo is 1 for 2 against Jimenez tonight, and 9 out of 19 in his career. And one of those hits is a grand slam.
And that was a hanger. Stayed out over the middle.
No balls and 2 strikes. In fact, that's Lorenzo's only career grand slam. Three years ago at Kauffman Stadium when Jimenez was pitching for the Indians. Right center field. Jones is there, and out of all that, the Royals get 1. Jimenez has been tiptoeing through a minefield all night and has allowed just 1 run in 4 innings. Royals baseball is brought to you by Thoroughbred Ford. Ready for a great deal on a Ford? Then it's time to go to Thoroughbred Ford. The Orioles have had 7 base runners and they've scored 5 runs. The Royals have had 10 base runners and have scored 1 run. The Royals have left 8 runners on base. The Orioles have stranded 2. Francisco Pena struck out his first time on 3 pitches from Yordano Ventura. No balls, 2 strikes. Has a chance to strike him out again on 3 pitches. It'll be Pena, Flaherty, and Jones.
Well, these guys are friends.
Ventura again very casually and submarine style gets the out at first base.
And off balance. And Haas, he had time to see as the ball was thrown so softly that he could get out there and pick that. Good play. Good pickup for him.
And now Ryan Flaherty with 1 out. Yellowwood is bringing the lumber, and so is Ryan Flaherty in the 2nd inning.
Also,
that was Flaherty's first home run of the year, and he hit it out of the stadium. That bounced up and landed on the awning up against the warehouse in right field. 2 balls and no strikes, and that home run was the 48th that the Orioles have hit at home this year, and that's the most for any team in the major leagues. So they've got a lot of power, and they sure use that well at home. Well hit. That's Merrifield at second base. He'll throw out Flaherty, and there are 2 down. A lot of damage done in the first 2 innings. And yet Ventura has retired 8 of the last 9. Six of the first 9 reached, and 5 scored. Adam Jones swung at Ventura's first pitch in the first inning, cracked his bat, and reached with an infield single and scored the Orioles' first run.
There's a lot of action in that first inning. I mean, birds were swinging.
Right field, Paulo Orlando on the track and makes the play. So now Ventura's retired 9 of 10. Top of the 5th inning, Eric Hosmer will lead off. Hosmer, blasted to center field. It is gone. The top of the 5th inning. It's time for our sprint trivia question. What 2 players have gone to all-star games as a catcher and later at a different position? I can think of one.
We might be able to get this one.
How about Craig Biggio?
Oh. That's got to be one.
Joe Mauer. 1 and 2 on Hosmer. He's walked twice.
I like it. Depends on if he was an all-star as a first baseman. We know he was as a catcher.
Joe Torre. Two balls, 2 strikes. Hosmer goes the other way. And now the Royals have had the leadoff man on in each of the last 4 innings. What they need to change is that so far only one of those leadoff men have come around to score.
A couple walks and that base hit to left field might get Hosmer locked. Let's hope.
Two times tonight, Ubaldo Jimenez has gotten the final out of an inning. with men on against Salvador Perez. Salvi had a good swing at a fastball. It was a strikeout in the first inning with 2 on 2 out, and then a fly out to center in the third inning to end the inning with a runner at first base. Oh and 2. Jimenez struck out Salvi on a pitch that was up and in. Salvi had an abbreviated swing, but far enough, and the Orioles tried to get him again with a pitch up and out of the strike zone. Deep and foul. Bigger crowd here tonight. I would think the Orioles, who were in a first place tie last night in the East, were disappointed with last night's crowd. You got the defending world champions in town, and they drew fewer than 15,000 for last night's game. Salvi's still alive at 1 and 2.
See that maybe his something on him still bothering him. He had a little grimace. It was his left quadricep that had the bruise.
Yeah, good point. The 2 swings that he had earlier in the at bat looked like he was feeling for the ball than really planting himself and driving it.
And that back leg's the one that most of the weight's on, and by the time you swing, you want it evenly distributed between the front and side. It looks like he's still having some issues with the leg, maybe.
Baltimore Orioles are 10th in the American League in attendance. And that's a good team in a big market. Davis calls off Jimenez. 1 down. This season at Kauffman Stadium, the weekend starts early because every Thursday home game is Buck Night. So enjoy delicious hot dogs and peanuts for just $1 each, and you can get tickets now for Thursday Buck Nights by calling 1-800-6-ROYALS or online at royals.com/promotions. And the next Thursday Buck Night is coming up on the 16th with the Tigers in town. The suddenly hot Detroit Tigers. Kendrys Morales has very good numbers in his career against the Orioles, mostly because of what he's done here. Best average at any major league ballpark is Morales here at Camden Yards, and he has 2 hits tonight, both times when he was down in the count. In the second inning, he doubled on an 0-2 pitch. In the fourth inning, he singled on a 1-2 pitch and scored the Royals run. 2 balls and 1 strike. Three and 1. Both teams have 7 hits. The Orioles lead 5-1. And the item that really stands out, the Royals have left 8 runners on base. The Orioles have left only 2. That's a base hit. 1 hop to Kim. So So Kendrys Morales is 3 for 3. 2 on with 1 out. Let's go to Joel.
Well, Ryan, the 2 hits that he had versus a righty was the second time he had done that this year. The 3 hits, it's his first 3-hit or more game against a righty since September 20th of last year. That day, I think you'll remember, at Detroit, went for 4 for 4 and had 3 home runs, including 2 against Alfredo Simon.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. You know, look, there's plenty of time left in this one for him to put a couple over the wall. But going to the opposite field with those last 2 hits, maybe that's going to work for him and get him locked in.
.93 pitches. There is nobody warming up in the Orioles bullpen at the moment. They were warming up in the 4th inning. Inside to Paulo Orlando. Paulo reached on an error and stole a base in the 2nd inning, and then had an infield single in the 4th. Jones is back into left center field and makes a play. Paulo didn't quite get it.
Yeah, I got it a little more down toward the end of the bat.
There's another big item tonight. Look at the Royals have had 6 more opportunities with a runner in scoring position than the Orioles. That's low to Cuthbert. Chesler is 1 for 2. He has Hosmer at second base and Morales at first. High slider, 2 balls and no strikes. Two and 1. Kind of an afterthought swing there on a fastball at 2 and 1.
Yeah, it is. Cuthbert needs to get around the league, get the fact known that he can turn on heaters. Start pulling a few of those balls and hit them out of the park. He's been really good with breaking pitches so far, but hasn't really established that he can turn on that big league heater in. There's another one. And you know, the Royals have gotten plenty of good pitches to hit, especially with the bases loaded. And we talked about how Jimenez is tiptoed through the minefield. Dale Swain is doing all he can to try to get these guys right.
Royals have had 12 base runners in 5 innings against Jimenez and have scored just 1 run. 10 left on base. the game. I'll bet if you went in the dugout and asked the hitters or went on the field and asked the hitters, they probably feel like they should be ahead. They've had a lot of opportunities against Jimenez. Down 5-1. It could easily be 7-1 Baltimore, as Lorenzo Cain has made the defensive play of the year. Kim rounds out to Merrifield, and now Hyun-Soo Kim is 2 out of 3. Let's go back to the bottom of the first.
Ooh, man, was that beautiful. Great timing. It's all about timing. Giordano now seems to have settled in. Third and fourth innings now have all gone 6 up, 6 down. That's 7. Go ahead and go.
Well, Machado's last at bat, Ventura missed inside 2 times. And at the time, we chalked it up to Ventura trying to get the ball off the plate as the Orioles scored 5 runs with the first 9 hitters against Ventura. But he clearly was not just trying to pitch inside to Machado with what he did on the first pitch to him here in the 5th.
Well, you know, let's show you the second inning. All right. They've been teeing off on him. He balls inside. He didn't like it. That's the second pitch in that at bat that was inside, and then he just misses here. Then they had some words. And Giordano, he's a competitor, and Machado, ball still in play, by the way. And then now, first pitch, and then he hesitated for a minute there. And it's on.
Is that what the Royals need right now?
Maybe it is, because the way things are going, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Sometimes looks like nobody was hurt. That's the good thing. That's the positive thing that comes out of it. But sometimes that'll wake up a team. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, we'll find out if there was something else that led to that. But I don't know if that picture in the dugout says more than what it was. But Giordano Ventura was sitting all by himself in the dugout with the rest of his teammates just looking at him. Oftentimes there's more to the story, but I don't know. I don't know if risk meets reward with that. Yeah, but you know, here's the deal. The last couple of pitches that were thrown inside, they had eye contact and they both had words the previous time up, and Giordano let it go. Well, it looks like Manny Machado has not been ejected, or maybe he has, but if I could read Ned Yost's lips, he said he charged him. Well, Machado's in the dugout. He's got to be ejected, even though it appears Giordano hit him on purpose. Well, it's the hitter's decision whether he wants to involve both teams when he charges the mound. That's always a thing, but you know, typically, if it's at your head, I mean that's grounds for charging. But you hit him in the back, and
but it stems from that previous at bat. That's what it stems from.
I'm going to say that's not what the Royals need right now.
Fair.
That's Field and Colbreth, the second base umpire and crew chief. Chin-Ming Wong is going to take over on the mound. Last year when this stuff was happening, and it's a biased opinion, but we watch the team every day, so our opinion, I believe, Hud, and correct me if I'm speaking out of turn using you as well, but teams are trying to bully the Royals.
Yep.
The A's and the White Sox in particular, and the Royals just had to find a point where they're going to fight back. Maybe it went a little too far. I think we all agree that it did go too far with that game in Chicago with Ventura and Adam Eaton. But here, unless we find out that there was something going on before tonight between Machado and Yordano Ventura, then whatever. But I mean, where the Royals are right now doesn't appear to be any lack of respect from their opponents, and the risk, in my opinion, is somebody gets hurt in that. I think the Royals have earned the league's respect. They're no longer a fluke team. They've gone to back-to-back World Series. They have won a World Series, and anyway,
well,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, Yordano, we know he's a competitor, and the way they pounded on him early, and then that last at bat between the two, when he hit that high fly ball, they were both staring at each other, and they had words then. And just next time up, Yordano let one go and got him. Sometimes a hitter feels like he's got to do what he's got to do, and that's the decision he makes. He puts everybody in jeopardy to get injured. But fortunately, I didn't see anybody hurt, which is good. There's lots of times someone's going to get some kind of something.
And I won't say who, and I don't want anyone on our crew to try and find it and show it, but I saw one Royal, a big name Royal, at one point telling Ventura to get off the field. He's saying, it's enough, go, just get in the dugout. So that may be something, that may be nothing, but that seemed to come out of the clear blue sky.
When he hesitated, you know, Machado, before going out there, he looked like he wasn't sure he wanted to go.
Well, he knows. I mean, he could get hurt.
Exactly.
I mean, he could get suspended.
Right. So I said, well, go ahead. If you're going to go
right.
get him.
And it looks like about 3 or 4 steps he decided that's what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And remember, it's the Royals who have been dominating the Orioles, not the other way around. I mean, even with last night's loss, the Royals have still won 12 of the last 17 games against Baltimore, and that includes the American League Championship Series. So if the roles were reversed and the Royals had won last night and the Royals were leading 5-1, well, then you could say, okay, the Orioles have had enough of this and somebody's just going to wear it. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But
it's hard to tell, Rhino. Look, I got drilled a lot in my career. I got drilled a lot, probably 20, 25 times, I think, or something. But, you know, there's only one time that I charged the mound, and it was in Double-A. And Buck Showalter happened to be my teammate. And the guy threw at my head 3 times. 2 consecutive pitches at my head, and I looked at the catcher and I said, what's that all about? Look, I gotta go. If he does that again, I'm going. So here it comes again, right at my head, and I had to protect myself. It was at my head, but I wore a lot of pitches from the shoulder on down and just took my base. Now I elected not to charge. That was my decision.
I'm not saying Manny Machado shouldn't have charged the mound. I'm not saying he overreacted. I mean, it was clear that Yordano Ventura was throwing at him tonight. Now, why? We'll find out, either on the record or off the record. That's Paul Yanish. He's going to run for Machado.
See, that was back in that day where you could go and take it out on it and break up a double play or get the catcher, and that was more my mentality. I always would pretend the pitcher would never hurt me. I didn't let him have the peace of mind.
So Chin-Ming Wong, and he throws a strike to Mark Trumbo. Trumbo hit a 2-run double in the first inning. One ball and 1 strike. Two and one.
So make sure to keep that ball down at the knees. Sinker, slider, change up. Don't want to leave anything up for this guy. Man, as hot as he's been. Leading the AL in homers. Don't give him anything up. Oh.
3-1.
That's what you want to pitch him. If he's not getting that.
And the way he gets on top of balls, I mean, you want to pitch most power hitters down, but especially a guy like Trumbo.
Come on. That's a good low strike.
It'll help Manny Gonzalez.
Hello. Where is he supposed to pitch this beast? Strong. Oh yeah, that's out of here.
20 home runs for Mark Trumbo. That leads the major leagues. He has driven in 4 tonight.
So when you throw a pitch to a power hitter, a good low strike that's not called a strike, he's going to wait for the next one. He's got to get it up. He knows that the pitcher's got to move that pitch up a little bit, and he did. Right for him on a tee. And as strong as he is, there's not a park that can hold this guy.
He's got a line drive hitter swing and a big body. I mean, isn't that? And now Davis hits one high and deep to center field. Can Kane do it again? Oh, he missed it. Lorenzo Cain had a chance to rip off 2 home runs in 1 game. And that's kind of sums up the night tonight. The most exciting thing for the Royals is the difference between a 7-1 and 8-1 game. Boy, Lorenzo, I think it went off the tip of his glove. He was there.
It did, and he measured it. There's nothing wrong with that, and he got plenty of hops on it. Good try.
Kane was playing deep and now makes a nice running play on Jonathan Schoop.
How about that? Now that one had a little more height on it, a lot of air under that fly ball, and he had time to time it, and he timed it just right. Just didn't quite have enough at the end of his glove there.
Alvarez was the one who lost a home run in the first inning into Lorenzo Cain's glove. The Orioles lead by 7, and yet they have only one more hit than the Royals tonight. Off speed and in for a strike, and it's 0-2.
Change up.
The Orioles have now hit 50 home runs at home, by far the most in the major leagues. One and two.
It's awfully tight strike zone. I mean, if it doesn't give the pitcher any wiggle room.
No excuses tonight. I mean, the Royals, they've put themselves in this position right now, but my goodness, that is a tight strike zone. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Crazy thing about this game is that while the Orioles are running away with it, the Royals could easily have 7 or 8 runs tonight. They have left 10 runners on base in 5 innings.
Yeah,
they've had many opportunities against Ubaldo Jimenez.
Well, I'm telling you, he gave those hitters some good pitches to hit when the bases were loaded.
All that offense tonight for the Orioles, and that's the first time they've reached with a walk. And now Francisco Pena is 0 for 2. Trying to figure out what started the Machado Ventura thing tonight. Now, Manny Machado did hit a home run in the 8th inning last night against Kelvin Herrera, and if we get an opportunity here, we'll show it to you and see if Machado did anything in that at bat to upset the Royals.
Yeah, I didn't
seem harmless.
Nah, it was all from tonight, Ryan.
Yeah, but what did he do tonight?
Nothing. Well, when he flied that ball up, him and Ventura had words. Machado stopped when the ball was still in play, and he stopped in between home and first, and was yelling some unkind words to Ventura, and it carried over. Here it is. Okay, he's been getting hit pretty hard. Now, we talked about the pitching inside. That's okay to pitch inside. And now this one right here, the wind blew it back in, but Ventura, look at him. They're looking at each other. Yeah.
And he could have diffused that situation. Ventura could have put his head down and head to the dugout. So there clearly was an agenda there.
Your Dono could have looked the other way on that fly ball. And he's done that this year.
Paulo Orlando makes the play, and that's the inning. 3 runs in the 5th for the Orioles, and their lead is 8-1. Royals come up in the sonic slam inning. And our contestant is Brenda Driver Jones from Atchison. If the Royals hit a home run in this inning, Brenda wins $500. If the Royals hit a grand slam, Brenda wins $25 grand from Sonic and the Royals. Fuentes, Escobar, and Merrifield. And I wonder if we could go back in time and ask Buck Showalter, when the Royals had runners at second and third and nobody out in the second inning, would he think that Ubaldo Jimenez would even sniff the sixth inning tonight? But here he is, having allowed just 1 run, 8 hits. The Royals have stranded 10. Last night, you can make the case that Mike Wright pitched a good game. Maybe not a great game, but pitched a good game. Struggling pitcher. He gave up 1 unearned run in 7 innings. I don't think there's any case tonight that Ubaldo Jimenez has pitched a good game.
No, I would agree with that.
Royals have just not been able to come up with the big hit, and it's not like Jimenez has gotten big strikeouts with men on base. That's a fair ball down into the right field corner. Fuentes has his first hit. But back to Yordan Ventura. You know, the thing about his situation right now, we get to be around him all the time. Right. When he's not pitching, in the hotel lobbies, on the road, Michael Givens comes on. He's a great kid to be around. Chevy called to the bullpen, and yet he is going to be judged by the baseball community based on what he's done on that mound the last 2 years.
I understand totally.
And the league is going to judge him as well. With a runner at second base and nobody out. Givens, another Oriole reliever who's had a good year, and we talked a lot about it last night. The 2 best bullpens in Major League Baseball are right here. Royals and the Orioles, if you go by certain numbers. So just a couple of years ago, Zach Britton, Brad Brock, Michael Givens. Those are not names that you'd think about would be shutting any teams down, but they have. Escobar caught by Kim in left center field. Fuentes will go to third.
Givens, that sidewinding action, man, he's going to go low to mid 90s with a heavy sinker, slider, changeup. Didn't fool Esky on that one. He almost put it out of here. 364. power alley there in left field. Very reachable.
He can be a handful for a right-hand batter.
Sure can. Very tempting for the right-handed batter to fly open with that front shoulder. Doesn't have a lot left with your power swing. He showed you his number with that ERA down around just around 2. Oof. Lefties are mopping him up, but the righties aren't doing much off him at all.
Two down. I'll bet that fastball after those sliders looks like 105 miles an hour.
Yeah, and you can tell by the swing there. Merrifield there. You're a little tardy on it.
One and one. Lorenzo Cain had an infield single in the first inning. He's 1 for 3. Checked his swing. 2 and 1. One of the reasons why the Orioles didn't expect Michael Givens to be doing this a few years ago is because a few years ago, specifically 3, he was making the conversion from an infielder to a pitcher. A second-round pick of the Orioles as an infielder. That may or may not have been the answer to Manny Machado.
Well, if it was, it's a good thing he didn't get a piece of it. That's right around his hands. And it looked like it might have ticked the end of his bat, or maybe a little piece of his hand. I think the plate umpire walked over to him and asked him if it hit him, and I think I saw Lorenzo shake his head. It was foul ball. It hit his bat.
The Royals are taking a look at that right now. Here comes Buck Showalter. Shocker. Oh, well, if it hit the bat and went into the glove, then it's a strikeout.
Yeah. And that's what Buck was saying.
So Cain almost gets drilled. You talk about adding insult to potential injury. He almost gets drilled, and it ends up being a strikeout. innings, 3 more in the 5th. 2 of those runs charged to Chien-Ming Wang in relief of Yordano Ventura, who was ejected after hitting Manny Machado with a pitch. Machado charged the mound. Those are the only 2 ejections we're aware of. One and one. Adam Jones swung at the first pitch thrown by Ventura and hit a little crack bat, 1 hopper to deep short, legged it out for an infield single and scored the first Baltimore run. Four home runs for the Orioles tonight.
Chien-Ming Wang's sinker is sinking over the outfield wall. It is up.
He has allowed 3 of the 4 home runs.
Pulls his hands in and barrels it. And at 93, it's not enough to power it by him or to pop him up.
This is game 6 of the road trip, and opponents have hit 16 home runs against the Royals. Fouled away by Hyun-Soo Kim.
You know, back in the days when they've been having bench clearing brawls since the game was ever invented. Now, the last few years, Major League Baseball have policed it and done a good job with it and virtually almost eliminated stuff like this, but they still break out. But in those days, there was animosity from years past from teams, and so there was grudges held during that time. But to my knowledge, there's nothing between the Orioles and the Royals. So it tells me that when Ventura backed off Machado a couple of times and then he flied out, they both made eye contact and had words. That's what started it, and then Ventura drilled it. First pitch, and then Machado said, you know what, it's on. That's, to my knowledge, how that thing's festered, just like that. It was just one incident. Sometimes that's all it takes. Wow.
Kane makes a play in center field.
Oh, I thought that was leaving.
Well, and again, going back to that, if anything, it should be the Orioles frustrated with the Royals. And the Royals have just dominated Baltimore.
Hey, let's look back to the 2nd inning now. Remember, Ventura had been getting hit hard. And they'd scored 5 runs on him. And now Ventura is staring him down again. And then he looked away, and Machado, as the ball hasn't been caught yet, is still taking his stuff off, and they had words. And Ventura had been doing a good job of controlling his anger all season long, and there's been some home runs hit. This is not the first home runs hit off of him this year. I remember one in particular in Houston when Altuve hit one up on the railroad tracks up there in Houston. And Ventura, whenever a guy would hit one like that on him, he would always stare him down. But this year he hadn't been doing that. Good tag. Great play by Haas. But if you'll watch this shot, we'll show it. Ventura looks away. After the hit, watch this. See, and Altuve looked at Ventura just to see if he was looking, but Ventura turned away, and that's what you do if you're a pitcher. If you stare the guy down, then sometimes that becomes an issue. His pride is on the line. So we showed you that just to show you how Ventura's been doing a good job controlling his anger.
Orioles are taking another look at the play on Giannis at first base, and they have decided not to challenge the call.
It's just great footwork by Haas over there on the bag.
And I'll say it again, maybe there's something we've missed. Maybe this goes back to April. Maybe this goes back to last year. Maybe it goes back to the ALCS. We don't know. But even if there was the greatest reason in the world to do that tonight, based on what happened with Yordano Ventura last year, the game is going to judge him based on the 2 seasons combined, not just one isolated incident. And now you start worrying about how long that suspension is going to be. The last thing Ned Yost needs right now is to lose a starting pitcher for an extended period of time.
Yep.
So we'll see what we find out.
Oh. Haas saved a couple of plays there that inning.
Another run for the Orioles, and now at the end of 6, their lead is 9-1. Up in the 7th inning. Let's go down to Joel. He's just outside the Royals dugout.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet down there. Obviously, everybody very frustrated. But I was thinking as I was watching all of this, you remember when Kelvin Herrera hit Brett Laurie last year, and I was talking maybe the next series or so to Torrey Hunter, then of the Minnesota Twins, who said to me, I've met Herrera before. He's a really good guy. But when you throw at someone like that, you're potentially being dangerous, and you're going to be labeled a headhunter. He's going to need to get past that. Well, that happened. Herrera hasn't been labeled that because he's been on good behavior. And I wonder now what happens with Yordan Ventura as this stuff happens again. And you know also, Hud, that if a guy has that label, the other team's going to do everything they can to try to get in his head and provoke him.
Yep, agitate him, you know, and that's what Machado did, and Ventura answered, and it maybe wasn't the right answer, but you know, we can't control those things.
One and two on Eric Hosmer. He has walked twice and singled. And, you know, I'll say it again, interrupted by a pitching change when the Royals were batting in the 6th inning. Yordan Ventura at times on the mound is nothing like he is when he's not on the mound. He's normally a happy-go-lucky guy, very easy to talk with. He doesn't always use English in his interviews, but when there are no microphones and cameras, he uses his English. You ask him a question about pitching, very willing to talk to members of our broadcast team and members of the media that follow the Royals. He's mostly a pleasant kid to be around.
Right, but when you go between the lines and you're making your living and you're competing, you become a different animal. I remember having friends that I grew up with. One of my high school teammates was with the Red Sox, and we're stretching one day, and he said, it's out for batting practice. And my buddy, his name was Steve Ellsworth. His dad was Dick Ellsworth, was a longtime big league pitcher. And I saw him in the outfield, and he goes, "You should have heard what they said about you in the meeting." He's talking to me, and I go, "No, what'd they say?" "It wasn't good. They said you're a dangerous player." And I told him, "Thank you. It's exactly what I want him to say about me. I was a different player between the lines too." So that's a common thing for competitors at this level. You're getting paid big money to win games. So Giordano got a little carried away, and he You know, they're going to get a suspension for that now.
But the question comes up, you know, is that the right thing for the Royals right now in game number 58?
I don't know. I mean, you hope it is. I mean, I hope it maybe wakes them up and gets them angry and gets them stirred up, and they have a meeting and talk about some things and come out and take it out on some pitching. I hope that's the case.
Givens has struck out 4 straight going back to the 6th inning. Tough night for Salvi. He's 0 for 4. Let's answer our sprint trivia question for tonight. What 2 players have gone to an all-star game as a catcher and later at a different position? I'm going to go with Craig Biggio and Joe Torre.
I think you got them. Well, I didn't even have time to get those out. Way to go, partner. Both Hall of Famers. One is a manager and one is a player.
And if Joe Mauer goes to another all-star game, which is very possible, you could add him to that list. So it's a little bit of a trick question, because Victor Martinez has been to an all-star game as a catcher and a designated hitter. But our crew got together and decided that designated hitter is not a position. So I guess we know how our crew is going to vote when it comes to David Ortiz going into the Hall of Fame, or Edgar Martinez.
Well, I don't know if anybody on our crew has a vote.
No, they don't. That's just the vote in their hearts. Kendrys Morales has been on base 4 times. So is this the game that gets him going? He has 3 hits, and now he's on with a walk. Runner at first with 2 down for Paulo Orlando. Well, nothing better than baseball and fireworks at Kauffman Stadium. Every summer, or every Friday game during the summer, it's fireworks on Friday, presented by Hy-Vee and Pepsi. Royals.com, 1-800-6-ROYALS for tickets. And your next Fireworks Friday is coming up on the 17th against the Tigers. All the fireworks tonight have been provided by the Orioles. 9 runs, 4 home runs, and they have an 8-run lead. Getting along tonight. 9-1 Baltimore to the bottom of the 7th inning. Panera takes us around the league. Detroit, what did they win, 11-0 last night against the Blue Jays? Toronto leads tonight 2-0 in the bottom of the 8th inning. The next time the Astros beat the Rangers this year will be the first. Texas is 7-0 against Houston. White Sox lead at home against Washington. Chicago's 1 game behind the Royals. They're in 3rd place. And Cleveland, who leads the division by 2.5, they've won 6 in a row. And they'll be playing the Mariners later tonight in Seattle. Peter Moylan comes on in the bottom of the 7th inning to face Davis, Schoop, and Alvarez.
There you go. Sinker, slider, changeup for Moylan.
Davis has hit one of the 4 home runs. He took Chin-Ming Wong deep to straightaway center field in the 5th inning. One and 2.
You know, watching Davis swing, and when he's on and he's hot, he's got a pretty swing. I mean, really is effortless with his way he golfs that ball out. He's a great low ball hitter. And I asked him before the game, you know, how long is your bat? It looks like a long bat. He shoots, sure enough, it's 35 and a half inch in length. He's big, tall, strong guy. He's got a long baseball bat that does a lot of damage to a lot of baseballs.
Moylan begins his outing with a strikeout. Really won't play into tonight's game with Baltimore leading by 8, but our Academy Sports and Outdoors leaderboard shows you that this is a team that has beaten up on a lot of bullpens in the 7th inning or later. They have the best run differential in the American League in the later innings. And that's an area that really separates the Royals homestand from the road trip. During the homestand, the Royals are just wearing out the White Sox and the Rays in the later innings, going 6-0. The Royals outscored the White Sox and the Rays 20-4 in the 7th inning or later. But on this trip, they have been outscored in the 7th inning or later 13-2. Schoop is out, 2 down in the 7th inning.
Well, they're dangerous when you have a power hitting team and they all get hot. We saw what the Royals do with their frenzy hitting and their keeping the line moving mentality. That, you know, it's all about scoring runs. There's different ways to do it. You frenzy hit or you hit with power, and the Birds are loaded with power hitters in their lineup.
They've hit 7 home runs in the first 2 games of the series, 1 with a man on base.
Wow.
So you worry about guys getting on base in front of all those home runs. They've only done that once, but they've also scored 13 runs in the first 2 games.
Right, and the Royals have what, 1.7 coming into this one per game. You're not going to win any games like that. With solo home runs, typically don't beat you if you're able to put up any runs of your own. The Royals offense is just totally shut down. Good spot, the slider there.
One ball, 2 strikes. The Orioles were within a few inches of hitting 5 home runs tonight. But Pedro Alvarez was ripped off by Lorenzo Cain back in the first inning. One of the best, if not the best, defensive play of the season for the Royals. Moylan comes on, 3 up, 3 down with a couple of strikeouts. To the 8th inning, the Orioles lead the Royals 9-1. They have hit 4 home runs tonight, and yet the big story is Yordano Ventura and Manny Machado. Bottom of the 5th inning. Ventura had pitched Machado inside twice in the 2nd inning, and that was his first pitch to Machado in the 5th. This is Vance Worley on a pitch for the Orioles.
And as far as we know, which is not that much, somebody could have gotten hurt in that. We don't know.
Right. Yeah, because last year when the Royals and the White Sox tangled in Chicago, it appeared that everyone was all right, and then the White Sox found out the next day that Matt Albers had broken a finger.
Right. Or you get stepped on. A lot of things happen. Right? It's dangerous. George Brett, nice guy off the field, but when he was on the field, oh my gosh, Hal McRae, those guys played baseball, man. They played hardball for keeps.
Flaherty throws out Chesler Cuthbert. Chess is 1 for 4. Our University of Kansas hospital injury report. Chris Medlin on the disabled list with inflammation in his right shoulder through batting practice at the Royal Spring Training Facility in Surprise yesterday and today. So he's getting closer to a minor league rehab assignment. He and Chris Young went on the disabled list the same day.
It's good to get a report on him. I noticed him not being around the guys. He's out in Arizona. Vance Worley. Sinker slider changeup combination.
One and 2 on Fuentes. Fuentes on the trip. is 6 out of 11 after his double in the 6th inning. Two and two.
That's a welcome bat in there. Anybody that's got any hits in him could be used by Ned.
Full count. Flaherty. I said Flaherty handled the ground ball from Cuthbert. It's Giannis at short, so Flaherty makes a play in foul territory. 2 down. Let's go to Joel.
Well, not the result Raymond Fuentes wanted there, but his cousin, Carlos Beltran, the former Royal in our Lee Summit Mazda game break, goes deep against the Angels at Yankee Stadium. Career home run number 407. That's coming off of David Huff, who was in Royal Spring Training and just called up by the Angels today. One other quick injury note: Brett Eibner, guys, is going to head out after the game on Wednesday, meet the Omaha Storm Chasers in New Orleans to begin his rehab on Thursday.
We got a chance to see Brett Eibner take early batting practice yesterday after the father's batting practice, and the ball was jumping off of his bat.
Yeah, and you know, I would say, like, just from experience, that he was probably about 70–80% maybe. Would you say that? So 100% Eibner is going to be good for the team. He's eligible to return June 16th. And by looking at him there, when you decelerate, that's when, you know, he had a little bit of a hitch in his get along there. Not quite right yet.
Flaherty makes a play at third. Escobar is out. Escobar continues to have a tough trip. He is 0 for 5 tonight. To the bottom of the 8th inning. Baltimore has a big lead. Royals baseball is brought to you by Dodge. Visit Dodge.com or your local dealer today. Tony Cruz has taken over behind the plate. Ned Yost has made 3 changes before the bottom of the 8th inning. Peter Moylan, who struck out 2 in a scoreless 7th inning, throws a strike to Pena. Drew Butera is at first base. Gerard Dyson moves into center. So Perez, Hosmer, and Kane are done for the night. And 2 on Francisco Pena. Francisco Pena last year with the Royals in September got his first big league hit. That's the second time tonight he has struck out on 3 straight pitches. And for Moylan, that's his 3rd strikeout.
Hey, Wildcat fans, show your school pride and come to the K on Friday, June 24th, as the Royals host the Houston Astros for K-State Night at the K. The first 4,000 fans who bring their K-State Night themed ticket and the designated table will receive a special edition gray and purple branded KC cap, which includes the Power Cat logo, courtesy of Fox Sports Kansas City and Rally House. Purchase your themed tickets at royals.com/themed tickets.
Flaherty into the left field corner and foul. So the Orioles have hit 4 home runs. And if you're just tuning in, and I said Adam Jones, Mark Trumbo, Chris Davis, and Ryan Flaherty have all gone deep tonight, which one was the most impressive? How many people would answer Ryan Flaherty?
Nobody. Trumbo would probably be at the top of that list since he's at the top of the home run category in the American League. But it was a very short, compact swing off a Ventura fastball right down the middle, and he got it. Hit one out there where Alex Gordon hit one. You could tell how hard it was hit. Paulo Orlando, the right fielder, didn't even move. I wonder if they're still putting plaques out there in the cement for this.
They are. Yep. That's really a neat feature. And to be honest, I've never really walked out there. I've been coming here for 20 years. But before game 1 of the series, I walked out there on Utah Street, and all those little, what are they, bronze plaques that are, there they are, embedded into the concrete out there. Those are balls that have landed on Utah Street. And there's Alex Gordon's back in 2008, 425 feet. This is Joey Rickard. He'll bat for Adam Jones. Rickard started in right field last night and was 0 for 4 with a couple of strikeouts. 1 ball and 1 strike. A Rule 5 pick for the Orioles. And if you're not familiar with that draft, in order to protect players from just being buried in a team's farm system, each organization can only keep a player in the minor leagues and off the 40-man roster for so long. And when that time expires, they can become available to the Rule 5 draft, where one team can literally draft a player from another team. The catch is that that player has to remain in the big leagues all season. And there's one of the best Rule 5 picks in the history of Major League Baseball, Joaquin Soria, taken out of the Padres organization. Discovered in Mexico by Louis Medina.
So you can only protect 40. And then there's a lot of organizations that keep their fingers crossed by leaving a couple of guys off that roster that they're hoping don't get picked up.
And then when you're on the 40-man roster, they can only keep you for so long without promoting you to the Major League 25-man roster. Kim hits it into the right field corner and just foul. Boy, he is a different hitter in this series. The Royals were just knocking the bat out of his hands when the Orioles were in Baltimore in April. The whole league was doing that to him.
Right, but you know, you have to credit him for making the adjustment in his stance. You see that he's not turning his hips like he used to, and he couldn't catch up to fastballs. Now he's dropped the flamingo load, and he's just picking up his foot, turning a little, and he's keeping his head and hands on the ball. So you got to credit this young man for making the adjustments.
And now he goes into the left field corner. And Fuentes makes the play to end the inning. Ninth inning, the Royals are down 9-1. Brought to you by your local Kansas City area Chevy dealers. Visit for great prices on the all-new 2016 Malibu. By Panera Bread, food as it should be with 24 KC Metro locations. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors, right stuff, low price every day. Royals are down by 8. Rickard, who batted for Jones, stays in the game in center field. Merrifield, Dyson, and Butera will come up. Nolan Reimold replaces Mark Trumbo in right field. And it's one of the oldest baseball rules in history. When you come into the game, after sitting all night, the ball will find you.
That's right.
So Ned Yost accomplishes a couple of things here. He gets Kane, Hosmer, and Perez off of their feet, and he'll get at bats for Dyson and Butera. And if anybody gets on, Tony Cruz will get an at bat. Many are awaiting, I'm sure, the reaction from the Royals clubhouse after what happened tonight. I think the reaction from the Orioles clubhouse is going to be pretty obvious. So tune into Boulevard Royals Live coming up after the game. A strike to Dyson. The Royals are 2 outs away from a 6-game losing streak. Last time they won 6 in a row was 3 seasons ago. The Royals at the moment are in their second 5-game losing streak. They did not do that once last year. Never lost more than 4 in a row, on their way to 95 wins and the best record in the American League. Up the left field line, fair ball. Dyson is on with 1 out. And that'll bring up Drew Butera for the first time tonight. Drew Butera in the 6 starts where Salvador Perez was not available after the collision with Chester Cuthbert. Drew Butera hit .368. Giannis bobbles, and the Orioles get the out at second base, 2 down.
Yeah, he made the most of his little short opportunity, that's for sure. Hit that ball hard.
And now Tony Cruz, who gets just his 3rd at bat since joining the Royals. One ball, 1 strike. So when the game is over, the Royals will drop to 3 games back of the Indians. They're out on the West Coast playing Seattle. And Baltimore will have a 1-game lead over Boston. Red Sox are also on the West Coast. They're at San Francisco. Broken bat, and Davis makes the play. So the Orioles have won the series, and now the Royals have lost 2 consecutive series after winning 6 straight. The Orioles win 9-1, and now the Royals have scored 4 runs over their last 5 games. Baltimore's won 5 of their last 6. 9-1 the final score. We'll be right back.